Walters will be open at 10 a.m. for opening day on Monday, well ahead of the 4:05 start against the Pirates. Plus, make Walters your spot to watch the NCAA tournament if you're down in Navy Yard.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Comes the 1-2 pitch. Swinging a blast to right center field and deep. Benson going back to the warning track, to the wall. He leaps, and he did not catch it. It's gone. It's a home run for Lipscomb. Trey Lipscomb has his first big league home run. It gives the Nationals the lead 4-3.
Everybody deep now, playing no doubles. The pitch, swing, and a fly ball to deep center. Robles going back. He's on the warning track. He's at the wall, and it is gone. Goodbye. A game-tying opposite field homer to left center off a first pitch splitter. And it's a blown save for Finnegan. We're all even. The Nationals 5 and the Reds 5. Now Finnegan ready. Here's the pitch. Swing and a long drive, deep left field, down the line, going, gone, goodbye. A walk-off game-winning home run off the splitter for an Encarnacion Strand after going 0 for 12 in the series.
And welcome to Nats Chat for Monday, April 1st, 2024, along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who is at Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. If you caught our last installment of the podcast, you perhaps recall a brief conversation late in the show about Kyle Finnegan, how his good is quite good, but when he's bad, he is quite bad. There is a Jekyll and Hyde nature to Kyle Finnegan that, yes, is true of many relievers. Heck, that's why these guys are relievers. But with Finnegan, the Jekyll and Hyde nature seems even more pronounced. And we on Sunday afternoon saw that Jekyll and Hyde nature up close and personal. A 6-5 Nationals walk-off loss at the Cincinnati Reds to conclude a regular season opening series in which the Nats went 1-2. Finnegan in the bottom of the ninth allowed 3 runs and got just 2 outs. He retired the first 2 batters he faced, but then came a nightmare of a sequence. He gave up a 2-out full count double by Jonathan India to left field to conclude a 10-pitch plate appearance. Finnegan then gave up a game-tying 2-out first pitch 2-run homer by Will Benson to left center field to tie the game at 5. And Finnegan then gave up a walk-off tie-breaking 2-out solo homer by Kristen Encarnacion Strand to left field for a 6-5 Nats loss. The Nats were 1 strike away from winning the game and winning the series, but then everything came apart, and over a stretch of just 4 pitches, just like that, the game was over, but in the complete opposite way that we were anticipating. Mark, the Nats did so many things well in this game and in this series. There was a lot to like from this game and this series, but that was a painful loss.
Painful and quick, like you just said. That's about as quick of a flip as I can remember seeing when we're not just talking about one batter. It's not like, a slow build up to the bases are loaded and then somebody hits a walk-off grand slam. Like you said, you're 1 strike away, nobody on base, 2 outs, and then that quickly double game-tying homer, game-winning homer. It was almost hard to process in the moment how quickly that all fell apart. And you called it yesterday with Finnegan. You are right that when he goes south, it goes like that. It reminds me of a game in Anaheim, I think a couple years ago, when Anthony Rendon, I think, did it to him. to win a game kind of similar fashion. And then there was a game the first week last season at home, maybe against Tampa. It was more of a slow burn, I think, where he gave up maybe 4 or 5 runs before it was all said and done. He does have this track record, for whatever reason, of like the first week or two of the season, this happening, and at the very end of the year in September, this happening. I know he really wanted to not have that be the case again and get off to a good start. And unfortunately, it just spiraled out of control. And I mean, if we want to break down what actually happened there, the first at bat, I give Jonathan India all the credit. 10 pitch at bat, fouled off 5 straight 2-strike pitches. They're all fastballs. He then gets the double. But the 2 home runs, I thought this was really interesting. In the span of 3 pitches, they're all splitters, and the 2 that were hit out were right over the plate. And Finnegan explained his logic why he was doing that. He had faced them both the day before, thought he'd catch them being overly aggressive and try to get them to chase a first pitch that's breaking down and out of the zone. The problem is they didn't break. He put them right over the plate. And as he said, if you throw soft over the plate, it's going to get hammered. And that's exactly what happened. So he wasn't so much questioning the pitch selection as he was questioning the execution of them. I do think it was curious, though, to throw 3 straight splitters, obviously his number 2 pitch, with the game on the line like that and have it backfire to that extent.
Finnegan, to his credit, did come through in that 7-6 win at the Reds on Saturday. Scoreless bottom of the 9th for the save. Wasn't a clean inning, but was a scoreless inning for that save. And that was off Hunter Harvey in the bottom of the 8th on Saturday, allowing 2 runs. But, I thought it was odd with the Nats bullpen in this game on Sunday because each of the first 3 relievers tossed a scoreless inning, but they were all non-clean innings, and there was a shakiness to each inning. Robert Garcia, scoreless bottom of the 6th, despite giving up 2 singles. Dylan Floro, scoreless bottom of the 7th, despite giving up a single and a walk. And then Harvey was back out there for the 8th inning on Sunday off what happened in the 8th inning on Saturday. Tossed a scoreless bottom of the 8th, but he gave up a leadoff full count double by our friend Jeimer Candelario. Now, in fairness to Harvey, this, to me, was a ball that Lane Thomas should have caught. This was a high fly ball off the right center field wall, and the ball went past the leaping backhanded glove of Lane Thomas. And again, a ball that Thomas could have caught on, again, an instance of Lane Thomas on a play against an outfield wall, not looking entirely comfortable. But, in each of those first 3 innings for the Nats bullpen on Sunday, some bad things could have happened, did not happen. And then the irony is in that 9th inning, it looks like you're on your way to a nice, clean inning, Okay, the Nats are going to win the game, win the series. And then it just all unraveled. That really was something.
Yeah, very different approaches and all that. But I did think to myself, we're going to get to Trey Lipscomb's homer after he hits that to go up 4-3. And as I'm writing my game story in real time as it's happening, I know I hopefully want to be able to lead with that to be the most significant thing of the game, especially if it ends up being the home run that gave him the lead for good. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking to myself, there's no way this game's going to end 4-3. I don't know how it's going to end. I don't know who's going to win, but there's going to be more to come, just as we saw on Saturday. And sure enough, there was a whole lot more to come in this one, this time in the wrong direction for the Nationals.
Well, you mentioned him, Trey Lipscomb. He ends up being one of the real stories of this series from a Nationals perspective, one of the real bright spots for this series from a Nationals perspective. Brought up from the minors to the majors officially on Saturday afternoon as the corresponding roster moved to the placing of third baseman Nick Senzel on the 10-day injured list. We saw Lipscomb do some good things in that win on Saturday, and Lipscomb in this loss on Sunday. Back out there as a starting third baseman, number 9 batter. David Martinez, exact same lineup on Sunday as he had on Saturday, and Lipscomb on Sunday, 2 for 3, solo homer, single, and a walk. He had the Nats 1-run 5th, had a single to center field. He had the Nats 1-run 7th, a tie-breaking leadoff opposite field home run to right center field on a 1-2 pitch for his first career Major League regular season home run and a 4-3 Nats lead. There was some confusion initially. Was it a homer? Wasn't it a homer? No, it was a homer. And Lipscomb came through with a big homer there. And then Lipscomb in the Nats 1-run 8th, a walk to load the bases with no outs. With the caveats of small sample size, we got to see more, yada, yada. Man, a really impressive first 2 games at the major league level for Trey Lipscomb.
I want to throw the yada, yada out. Can we just focus on what we saw the last couple of days? Forget the yada, yada this time. It is hard not to really be impressed. And this is a continuation of what we saw in spring training. It's just good, solid play all around. That's at the plate, it's on the bases, it's certainly in the field where he has looked excellent at third base with some help from Joey Gallo, who I want to give some credit here to, scooped up a bunch of throws this weekend to help out his infielders. He's not hitting at all. The at-bats have been atrocious so far. Defensively, it has been good for him. But I think what we're seeing from Trey Lipscomb is just what they always thought they could get out of him. It's not necessarily spectacular. I know it was a home run, but it was just a good, solid two-strike approach, driving a ball to the opposite field in the cleared defense. It's just good, solid play. This kid seems to know how to play baseball well, and it's hard not to be excited about it. By the end of this year, we may be talking more about James Wood and Dylan Cruz because they're going to have the more spectacular, hopefully, highlights. But this guy just knows how to play the game, and I think that's why they did believe he was the closest to big league ready all along. And 2 games in, he looks the part. He looks like a big leaguer.
Hey, Al Galdi here for Window Nation. Baseball season finally is here. Spring finally is here. And that means a great offer from Window Nation for listeners of the Nats Chat podcast. If your windows are cracked or leaking and or won't open or stay open, now is the time to call Window Nation, which is offering the following deal to listeners of the Nats Chat podcast. 2 free windows for every 2 windows that you buy, plus 0 down, 0 interest, and 0 payments for 24 months. Call 866-90NATION or visit windownation.com and make sure that you tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. Upgrade the look, feel, and value of your home with great new Window Nation windows. Window Nation is the best, and take advantage of the offer. 2 free windows for every 2 windows that you buy, plus 0 down, 0 interest, and 0 payments for 24 months. 866-90NATION or windownation.com. That's 866-90NATION or windownation.com. And make sure that you tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast.
Football season may be over, but the action on the floor is heating up. Whether it's tournament season or the fight for the playoff home court, there's no shortage of high-stakes basketball moments this time of year. Get in on the excitement with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you can turn your hoops knowledge into serious cash. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 with NBA, NHL, and college basketball entries today on Prize Picks. Prize Picks even offers injury insurance so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. So for basketball games, this means if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and doesn't return in the second, that player projection won't count against you and the rest of your entry stays live. Download the app today and use the code BLUEWIRE for a first deposit match up to $100. That code is BLUEWIRE for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BlueWire. Just go to Indeed.com/BlueWire right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BlueWire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
The 2-2. Breaking ball, launch deep right field. Forget about it. Abrams gets into this one. It's long gone. Halfway up the section in right center field. First home run of the season for C.J. Abrams. A no-doubter off a 2-2 pitch. Nationals 1, Reds nothing. Big sound off the bat of C.J. Abrams. What a shot.
Another young Nationals player, a building block for the Nats, who came through on Sunday off having come through on Saturday, was C.J. Abrams. Back out there as the Nats starting shortstop and #1 batter, 1 for 4 with a solo homer. Abrams in the Nats' 1-run third, a 1-out solo homer on a bomb to right field for a 1-0 Nats lead, a projected 429 feet per StatCast. But it wasn't just that. The homer came in an 8-pitch plate appearance in which Abrams at one point was down 0-2. We are seeing a much more astute C.J. Abrams in the batter's box so far this season. Last season, the lack of walks were a problem, although as the season went on, he did get better at that. But 3 walks on Saturday to go with, oh, by the way, a triple and 3 for 3 on stolen bases and some nice defensive work. And then on Sunday, that homer, again, coming in an 8-pitch plate appearance in which he at one point was down 0-2. Loved seeing that. I did not love what we saw with C.J. Abrams, and this is not his fault, but in what ended up being a 1-run Nationals 5th inning. Runners on first and second, nobody out, Nats down 3-1. Davey Martinez, I'm assuming this came from Davey, you can correct me if I'm wrong, has Abrams sacrifice bunt. Now, the bunt worked. Advanced Luis Garcia Jr. to third base, advanced Trey Lipscomb to second base, and then Lane Thomas came through with a single to score those guys. So, you can say, well, that worked, the strategy paid off, and this ended up being an inning in which the Nats scored 2 runs. But in a game that the Nats end up losing by a run, we've had this conversation before about the sacrifice bunt. It does, in a lot of ways, take you out of the big inning. Here you have Abrams. He's one of your best batters. Nobody's out. You got 2 runners on base, and you have him sacrifice bunt. I couldn't stand seeing that, Mark. So you tell me where I'm wrong on that.
I was thinking of you in the moment. That and later on, Trey Lipscomb squared around a bunt in his next at-bat after the home run. That was also 2 on and nobody out. Now, thankfully for him or for the Nationals, the reliever was so wild that they took the bunt off and he wound up walking on 4 straight pitches. But I was thinking, boy, if both Abrams and Lipscomb put down sacrifice bunts, one at bat after they each hit a home run, what is the reaction from Al Galdi and a lot of other people out there going to be? I think the only person in the universe who'd be happier to see that happen than Davey Martinez would have been Adam Eaton if he happened to be watching the game, the king of the home run and sac bunt on the same day. Like it or dislike it, I do think this is the kind of approach that Davey Martinez believes in and is going to stick with. We didn't get a chance to ask about him after the game. Obviously, there were some more pressing matters than that. I think his response would be, no, that worked exactly how we wanted it to work. You get 2 runners in scoring position, a good hitter at the plate, and Lane Thomas drove them both in. Now, in CJ's case, it was a sacrifice bunt, but it almost looked like he was trying to beat it out too. Like, I think he wouldn't have minded getting that down a little closer to the line and maybe beating it out. And so it's officially goes down as a sacrifice bunt. And that's, the number one goal of it is to advance the runners. But I felt like there was maybe just a hint of a maybe try to beat that one out in his case. Look, this is the way I think Davey manages. You can like it or not, but I think it's the way he does it. And I think he would argue, whether it's right or not, that the results justified the means there. And I'm sure you have a different opinion on that.
I do, and I like Davey Martinez a lot. I respect Davey a lot, but I mean, you could look at data on this, like run expectancy charts. Sacrifice bunting basically always lowers your run expectancy in an inning, doesn't raise it. And especially with Abrams, the guy hit a triple on Saturday. He had homered on Sunday. You're taking the possibility of an extra base hit away from him in a spot like that. And you end up losing by 1 run. Who knows what that inning could have been had you allowed Abrams to swing, but that was not the case right there. Now, I mentioned Lane Thomas. It was good to see him finally get a hit in this season, and it was a big hit. He had that 2-run 5th, did have that game-tying 2-run single, a 1-out first pitch, a 2-run single to left field to tie the game at 3. And he had to steal a second base and to steal a third base. And he had a 1-out RBI sac fly in the Nats 1-run 8th inning for a 5-3 Nats lead. You saw throughout this series different people contribute. Like Keeper Ruiz had a big game on Saturday, did not do much in this game on Sunday, 0 for 5. Lane Thomas had not really done anything over the first 2 games, save for a walk on Saturday, but a big hit in this game on Sunday and then a nice RBI sac fly.
He needed this one. It was a very slow start to him. Gallo's gotten more of the attention for his struggles, but Lane was right there behind him up to that point, 0 for 10. So he needed that. Also had the sacrifice fly later in the game. And just because I'm looking at my scorecard now, and it occurs to me, right before that sac fly, you had C.J. Abrams come up with the bases loaded and nobody out and struck out on 3 pitches. Now, that's not a bunt situation when you have the bases loaded, but just to go back to the previous one, you do risk that. You let him swing away. He might strike out. Nothing good comes of that. So, we can point to a lot of areas, really the last 2 days, even though they won the first game and they were in position to win this one, there were a number of opportunities the last 48 hours for them to score a lot more and give themselves a much more significant cushion if they had just delivered in a few more spots with runners in scoring position. In that 8th inning, You have bases loaded, nobody out, you get 1 run out of that. You want more than that, especially with Abrams, Thomas, and Winker at the plate at that point. That was a frustrating one. They stranded the bases loaded in the 7th as well, although that was with 2 outs. They stranded a couple runners in scoring position, I think, in the 5th. So there is more that could be there for them, and maybe you can take some pressure off your closer, maybe even not have to use your closer if you can open up a bigger lead by scoring more runs earlier in the game.
Yeah, and that's on Sunday, 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position. Finished the game with 9 hits and 4 walks. Only struck out 7 times off having struck out 14 times in that win on Saturday. You mentioned Jesse Winker, another productive game for him. He got on base 4 times on Sunday, 2 for 3 with a double, a single, a walk, and a hit by pitch. Top of the first, a 2-out single up the middle despite having been down to the count at 1.12. Top of the third, a 2-out hit by pitch. Top of the 5th, a 1-out 10-pitch walk despite having been down at 1.12. And top of the 7th, a 2-out first pitch double to the right center field gap. He impressed during the exhibition season. He got at least a hit in each of the 3 games in this series, and he was especially productive over the final 2 games. So I give him credit. I mean, we've had some fun, with him being the number 3 batter, and that's not ideal. Let's be honest about this. But last 2 games anyway, he has produced offensively.
He's done way more than I think most people thought he would do, both offensively and defensively, looking much better in left field. It's funny, the Cincinnati media here keeps talking about, that he wasn't a terrible fielder, but certainly not known for his glove. And the press box here is unfortunately down the third base line a ways and closer to the outfield. We could hear at one point fans heckling Winker from the outfield, and somebody yelled out, "Just hit it to Winker, he'll drop it." And Jesse actually turned around to try to find the guy who said it. That struck me as, a Cincinnati fan who probably saw his share of Jesse Winker over the years, and I guess had reason to believe that he could not be trusted in the field. But so far, 3 games in, he's been more than adequate out there, and definitely at the plate he has been.
Yeah, he's done a nice job, so good to see that.
Tim Shover's here to tell you about Game Time. Nats season is about to begin. Opening day coming up next week on Monday afternoon. Time to think about buying tickets again. Make sure to check out Game Time. What's great about the app is that you can see the actual view of all of the seats in the venue, Nationals Park included, and it has the lowest price guaranteed. One feature that's great is zone deals. Save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code NATSCHAT for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code NATSCHAT, that's NATSCHAT, for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
This episode is brought to you by Pepsi Wild Cherry. Pepsi Wild Cherry is bursting with delicious cherry flavor and a sweet, crisp taste that gives you more to go wild for. Getting wild may look different these days, but whether it's opting for a solo Friday binge watch or a big night out, everyone can indulge in their wild side with Pepsi Wild Cherry. Also available in Zero Sugar. So grab a Pepsi Wild Cherry and get wild.
Fastball line left center field. That's going to be his first hit of the year. Scoring from third, Garcia. Rounding third, Lipscomb coming home. The throw toward the plate is well offline. It's a single to left center field for Lane Thomas, his first hit, and his first 2 runs batted into the year. And he has tied this game here with 1 out of the top of the 5th inning. 3 hits in the inning for the Nationals. And it's now Washington 3 and Cincinnati 3.
Jake Irvin was the Nats starting pitcher for this game on Sunday afternoon. 3 runs in 5 innings for Jake Irvin. Gave up 7 hits, which were comprised of a triple, a double, and 5 singles. He issued 2 walks and a balk. He recorded 4 strikeouts. He did not throw many strikes. 80 pitches, just 46 strikes versus 34 balls. Bottom of the 3rd, he allowed 2 runs. He began that inning by issuing back-to-back walks of Spencer Steer and Nick Martini, then gave up a 1-out RBI groundout by Jonathan India to tie the game at 1, and then gave up a 2-out RBI double by Will Benson to right field for a 2-1 Reds lead. And then Irvin in the bottom of the 4th allowed a run. He gave up a 2-out triple by Ellie De La Cruz to the right center field gap, past a sliding Lane Thomas. It was tricky to tell on TV whether Lane should have caught the ball. It looked like he could have caught the ball, but he did not. But that would have been a tough catch. And then Irvin, on the very next pitch, gave up a 2-out first pitch RBI single by Spencer Steer to center field for a 3-1 Reds lead. It's not saying much, but this was the best outing by a Nats starting pitcher in this series. 3 runs in 5 innings, nothing to write home about. Irvin was especially good early in the game from a velocity standpoint, and then that ticked down. So kind of a lot to process with Irvin's outing. What'd you make of what we saw?
That's what stood out to me the most. The first 2 innings, he was lights out. I mean, retired or faced the minimum the first 2 innings, gave up a single, but got the double play to end that. 3 strikeouts, and he topped out at 98 miles an hour, which I don't know if I've seen that from him before. He was consistently 96, 97, and even 98, which is 2 miles an hour harder than he averaged last year. So my eyes perked up. Whoa, okay, this is a guy who looked really good in spring training. Let's see what he can do here. And then after that point, you noted it, the velocity went down, and all of a sudden he's throwing 93, 94 with the fastball, getting hit much harder. He didn't really throw a whole lot of strikes, 46 out of 80. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, is there something more going on here with him? Now, the way that Davey Martinez described it is he felt like it was a mechanical issue where he starts flying open his front shoulder, his front hip. And when you do that, the velocity is going to go down because you're not getting the best, I guess, torque would perhaps be the physics word for it. And that's why the velocity would go down. Maybe the command not be as good. Jake said, he wasn't really feeling it in the moment and had to go back and look at it to figure it out. But you saw there why he could be really good, but he's got to be able to sustain that. And if there is any question about whether he's a true major league starter in the long run, he's going to have to learn how to maintain his mechanics and continue to be effective deeper in games. Now, he did it at times last year. We saw him have some excellent starts that continued deep into the game. In this case, that was not what happened, and I'm interested to see, can that be something he corrects? If he can pitch at all like he did those first 2 innings, wow, they've got something there. If not, that's a little more cause for concern.
If you're ranking national starting pitchers just in terms of velocity, which is not the way to evaluate starting pitchers, but just if you want to have some fun, it would be Mackenzie Gore 1, Irvin 2, Josiah Gray 3. Is that the proper order?
Yeah. Corbin and Gray probably throw about the same velocity. Maybe Gray's slightly, might tick up to 95 these days. We know Trevor Williams is at the bottom of the barrel. It's tough for him to even hit 90. But, I'm trying to think of Mackenzie Gore now. Maybe he topped out at 98 last year. He consistently get to 96, even 97. Jake Irvin for a couple innings today was right there with him. And again, that kind of opens your eyes. You say, whoa, I haven't quite seen that from him. But the issue there is, can he sustain it through a full start? And he was not able to do that here.
Well, the Nationals' next game, whenever it happens, should have Mackenzie Gore as the Nats starting pitcher. Next up for the Nats is their first home series of this regular season, a 3-game series against the Pittsburgh Pirates at Nationals Park. The forecast for the Washington, D.C. area for Monday, Tuesday, and even Wednesday include a lot of rain. So we'll just have to wait and see what ends up happening with these games. Game 1, scheduled for Monday afternoon at 4:05, Mackenzie Gore will be the Nats starting pitcher. Game 2, Wednesday evening, 6:45, Trevor Williams will be the Nats starting pitcher. Game 3, Thursday afternoon, 4:05, Josiah Gray will be the Nats starting pitcher. I'm normally not a fan of the scheduled off day after the regular season home opener because I feel like so often you end up not needing that off day, and it's an off day that you really want later in the season when you have like some ridiculous stretch of like 19 games in 19 days. But it does feel like this year having that scheduled off day for Tuesday might do the Nats some good because they may need to use that for a makeup game.
Well, yes and no. It would be nice to have that if we knew that Monday's forecast was the worst. But based on the last thing I saw, Tuesdays looks worse than Mondays. And if that's the case, in the sense I got, it's early, these things change, of course. But the sense I got from the Nationals was if they knew Tuesday was clear, they probably would already have postponed Monday's game. Just said, okay, let's not make everyone come out there. Let's go ahead and just schedule it for Tuesday. But knowing that Tuesday's forecast is worse, I think they are going to feel compelled to bring everyone out there on Monday and hope for the best. Again, it's the weather, so who knows? But the little bit I read about it earlier made it sound like it's sort of on and off showers. It may not be a full, washout completely. We'll see. But I have a hunch that we're all going to be going there to the ballpark and maybe waiting a while, and they may decide that they have to try to do what they can to get that one in, because if Tuesday is worse and if Wednesday is no guarantee to try to play a doubleheader, that doesn't leave them in a great spot, and you're facing a non-division opponent who doesn't return. So it could be, unfortunately, a long day Monday, or the kind of day that they just have to try to play it, even if it is raining somewhat.
Trevor Williams is scheduled to start Game 5 of this Nats regular season. It doesn't have to be that he starts a game this early in the season, but he is slated to start a game early in the season. Why are the Nats starting Trevor Williams?
The reasoning behind that, two things. One, not wanting to push the young guys to throw a lot early. It's a long year. You want to get them all through it, and you have a chance to give them an extra day off. You want to take advantage of that. And secondly, I think it's the matchup. They feel a lot more comfortable with Trevor Williams facing the Pirates than the Phillies, who he would face this weekend if they waited till the last minute to use their fifth starter. Now, the Pirates have been good. They're off to a really good start this season, but we know who the Phillies have in that lineup, and a guy who led the league in home runs surrendered last year, facing Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper and Nick Castellanos. Maybe better off just having him face the Pirates in Game 2 of that series and hoping for the best. So I think it goes to that, and I think it goes to just the idea of, if you have a chance to give Gore and Gray and Irvin an extra day of rest when you want to get them through the whole season healthy, I think you just take that and, understand that if you're in a little more competitive situation, you may say, hey, all right, our top 4 guys are going to go until we have to use our fifth starter. But in this case, they're not quite there. And
in fairness to Trevor Williams, he was good early last season. It was basically like an Eric Fetty type season. First 10 starts or so, he was good, and then just everything unraveled. But maybe he could at least be decent, if not good, over, say, a 10-start stretch of time early in the season. You tell us what you think. Hit us up on X at @Nats_chat. You can email the show, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on YouTube. Just search Nats Chat. Our YouTube handle is @NatsChatPodcast. And please click on the thumbs up button and please click on subscribe. We very much appreciate that. We have a website that we invite you to check out as well, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can buy a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.